Keep. Draw. Win the game. 2 black. And 7. Oh, bugger it. 12. 17. Here we go. 2 minute hellfire. G'day and welcome to Top Deck Commander. My name's JP, and if you watched my last video, you'll know that I'm doing this week Rhoda and Timin. Rhoda gets +1/+1 counters every time an opponent's creature is tapped by me or someone else. And Timin taps their creatures at the start of every combat. So, boom, he removes the threats, she gets bigger and bigger. That's as simple as that. Tap them all, swing in. This time, I also used a different commander for this deck. They've been my staple too for the last couple of times I've played it. But this time I played Hylda of the Icy Crown. And wow, what a commander. Really good. I'm genuinely thinking I'll make her the boss and put those other two into the deck. They have partners, so I get one of them. I can use that to tutor up the other one. This one, every time we tap one of their creatures, create a token or put a +1/+1 counter on every creature I've got. That's pretty handy. Or scry 2 and draw a card. So that's everything you need there. Everything. Extra creatures, buff, card draw. It's fabulous. Worked really well in the deck against a Tergrid and 2 Eldrazi's. Didn't win, I made a mistake, but did really well, was very competitive and was a lot of fun. The whole deck itself is just that. It's a load of fun. You're doing a little bit of control without being stacksy. They find it frustrating but not annoying. There's a little bit of politics going on. You can communicate with people about what you're going to tap, what you're going to tap down. They might hate the fact you tap their creature now, but they won't mind in a minute when you tap down something with Annihilator 4. They'll be like, "Oi, best friend, cheers." So, without further ado, let's just get into it. Ramp. First up, just a bunch of rocks, really. This is what you're going to expect from an Azorius deck. A couple of emergency draws there, Commander Sphere, Solemn Simulacrum. Decanter of Endless Water, I do like that. No maximum hand size. I think that's a bit underrated. After that, we got some other stuff. Keeper of the Accord, can draw the odd token, draws at planes. Ornithopter of Paradise. It was in my deck, but I do have ways to buff creatures up, so a flyer that's been buffed up is not necessarily a negative. And good old Grand Arbiter or Gustin IV. White and blue spells all cost 1 less to cast. Not a lot of multicoloured spells in this deck, so they're both not going to trigger, but never mind. And spells my opponents cast cost 1 more to cast, which is great, because if you can't ramp, then at least stop them from taking advantage of their ramp by making them pay extra. Now to the all-important card draw. I've got 6 enchantments in this deck, so I did put 2 enchantment tutors in, just to pick them up, get them into action nice and quick. 2 of those enchantments are card draw. The first one, Verity Circle, explodes once you start tapping creatures. Once you get your Timin out or your Citadel Siege, which you'll meet later, you're just drawing cards on everybody's turn. Mystic Remora, there's another enchantment. That's a good solid card. After that, I've got a couple of cantrips. Borrowing 100,000 Arrows. Artwork taken from the 2-movie set Battle at Red Cliffs. Highly recommend it. 4.5 hour binge. Really good and historically accurate. Theft of Dreams, the next one. Yeah, not so sure about this one. It's a sorcery. Draw cards equal to the number of tapped creatures one opponent controls. After that is Charade of Numbing Depths. When she enters the battlefield, I tap a target creature and slap a stun counter on it. That helps. And she's got the same kind of effect as Verity Circle. Whenever a creature gets tapped, I draw a card. There we go. That's all good. It's a bod. It's attached to a bod. It's even better than the enchantment. Hylda's Crown of Winter. So in my turn, I can tap their target creature for free. Other than that, I can hold on to this and tap a target creature at any stage. Extra 1 because I'm hopefully tapping at least 1 every combat. And of course, I can always sack this and draw a card for each tapped creature my opponents control. A couple of cards in there that give me the Monarch, Archon of Coronation, damage doesn't cause me to lose life, that's a bonus, and Palace Jailer. Enters a battlefield, I exile a target creature. Try to get as many of these type of cards into your deck as you can. Really, they're superb. Give me draw and exile one of their creatures. Sure, you should have a removal package, which you'll see next, usually about 10 cards. But if you can get another 4 or 5 cards in there that do little things like that, it's just bonus. It's just jam. Moving on to the last 3 now. The only Planeswalker in the deck, Tamio the Moonsage. I can uptick it to tap a target permanent, not just creature, permanent. And I can down 2 to draw a card for each tapped creature. Consecrated Sphinx. Well, that's in there because, I don't know, I own it and it was expensive, really. I know it's out of date. I used to see this on shows on YouTube. Every show, someone would have Consecrated Sphinx. Now, it's 6 mana, it's a little bit expensive, but never mind. And finally, Hylda of the Icy Crown. She's going to be my commander in tomorrow's game. Every time I tap a creature, I can create a 4/4 token. I can put a 1/1 counter on each creature I control. That's Cathar's Crusade stuff. Or I can scry 2 and draw a card. What a brilliant card. I reckon she's going to go off as a commander tomorrow. Now we're going to get on to interaction. Classic Swords to Plowshares. Generous Gift. Love this card. What I love about it is it's instant and it says permanence. I'm going to discuss instant sorceries, permanence, exiling, destroying after this actually. But Generous Gift, destroy a permanent, creates a 3/3. Now, talk about power creep. The next card is Stroke of Midnight. Exactly the same words, except it creates a 1/1. Wizards, what happened to the 2/2? Where's the 2/2 gone? These guys, they're just creeping up so fast. Finally, Heliod's Intervention. Love this card. It's a mini enchantment wipe or a mini artifact wipe or both. And, in an emergency, gain some life. If you've got nothing else to do, just gain some life. After that, we get into the board wipes. Guan Yu's Thousand Li March. I bought the Chinese version, dirt cheap. If you buy the English version, yeah, just forking out, mate. Righteous Fury, the Sunblast Angel. Once again, that's a bod. Once again, they're all about tapped creatures. Just destroy them. Get rid of them. Moving on to the next now, a couple of counter spells. Very CEDH here, aren't they? Look at that, the miscast and the offer you can't refuse. Love it, love it. And finally, I've got a couple of sort of removal. After that, I've got Giant Killer. It's got the Adventure, which can destroy a creature with power 4 or greater. And when it's on the board, I can pay 2 and tap it to tap a target creature. Not the best card. I'm kind of questionable about him, but, there's some utility there. After that, Palace Jailer. Become the Monarch. I draw a card at the end of my turn, and I should be able to get Monarch back nice and easy by tapping down someone's creatures and charging in, hitting them. They'll soon learn to leave me alone. Also, this exiles a target creature. That's nice enough. It's just something. It delays, if nothing else. Okay, that's the boring stuff out the way. We're going to get into the meat of the deck in a minute. But first, just for the newer players, I want to talk about removal and the difference between instants and sorceries. Now, sorceries are good. They remove things. Most of your board wipes are sorceries. I think all of them, in fact. But the thing about sorcery is if you are removing a creature with it, you're removing that creature because it is a threat to you and everybody else. And you go, well, I can play it now or never, so you play it. But you're doing those other 2 players a favour, aren't you? You're getting rid of a creature. You don't know whether that creature was going to go and attack them. If it attacks them, what do you care? That's where instants are so much better. They give you that opportunity just to sit back and see which way the game goes. Oh, that big stompy creature's coming my way? No worries. I'll Swords to Plowshare it. Oh, it's going someone else's way? See you, buddy. Go to the bar, grab me a drink, thanks. It's as simple as that. Other things you want to look for on your removal are the words exile instead of destroy. Exile gets rid of it permanently. Destroy puts it in the graveyard. Now, most commander decks these days have 2 or 3 bits of recursion, ways of getting things out of their graveyard, back into their hand or onto the battlefield. If it's actually a graveyard deck, you're probably playing into their strategy by chucking it in the graveyard anyway. You're just giving them another ETB effect. And then later on, you've got to play another removal just to get it off the battlefield again. So you've played 2 bits of removal to get rid of 1 card. Wherever possible, exile. The last thing I love is the word permanent instead of creature or enchantment or artifact. Permanent just gives you that flexibility. If there's suddenly a planeswalker that's a problem, an enchantment, an artifact, whatever it is, you can put that down, get rid of it. Probably get rid of battles at a guess, although not many people play them anyway. So that's what you want to look for. Your peak removal spell would be an instant that exiles permanents. How you structure that under there, whether you then go destroy or instant destroy permanent over instant exile specific thing, creature or enchantment, your business. But always look for that. Instants that exile permanents. The best removal you can get your hands on. Right, now back to the meat of the video. 5 bits of protection here. Obviously, Lightning Greaves and the Swiftfoot Boots. Valorous Stance, just an instant, gives indestructible, but also has some utility there. I can destroy a creature. And you see a guard approach. It's thematic. It can tap a creature or it can give my creature hexproof. And finally, Bastion Protector. Commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have indestructible. Okay, time for 4 random cards. Always Watching is in the deck. It's an enchantment, can be tutored, just gives a bit of buff and gives my guys vigilance. I'm not going to be able to tap every creature, so having some defense up is handy. Solitary Sanctuary. Try saying that with a mouthful of marbles. Jeez. It taps target creature and puts a stun counter on it on ETB, which means the guy doesn't untap in the next turn. But most importantly, it's that bottom paragraph. Whenever I tap an untapped creature, I put a 1/1 counter on target creature. So once again, I'm buffing up. I've got a few cards in the deck here that do that. And this one does it all on his own. Gideon's Avenger. Anytime a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, put a 1/1 counter on him. This guy does it even when they're tapping to attack. It doesn't matter. So long as they're tapped, he gets a counter on. Even if they're tapping for mana, he gets a counter. He gets big real fast, and I've got a piece of cheese I'm going to attach to him later, which will absolutely destroy people. Finally, I've got Drum Bellower. Untaps all creatures I control during each other player's untap step. This is for creatures you're about to meet. I've got a lot in there that tap to tap their creatures. This way I can untap them and keep active and keep tapping down their creatures. And obviously it wouldn't be a tapping deck unless I had things that tapped their creatures. So I've got 8 creatures here that do some tapping. The first 6 are pretty standards. They tap to tap a creature, or they tap a creature when they attack or ETB. It's nothing huge in those. The good ones become Hammers of Moradin, Dwarf Cleric with Myriad whenever it attacks. For each opponent, I tap up to 1 target creature that player controls. So that's each opponent. So I'm tapping 3 with him when he attacks. And the next one, Sentinel of the Eternal Watch, has vigilance. The beginning of combat on each opponent's turn. So each opponent's turn, I tap a target creature that player controls. So I tap down their biggest creature at the beginning of combat every time. I did talk about the 2 tutors I had for enchantments. This is one of the important enchantments as well. Citadel Siege. Beginning of combat, on each opponent's turn, tap target creature that player controls. Same effect as Sentinel of the Eternal Watch. But of course I can also put 1/1 counters on target creature I control, a little bit more buff. And Great Sword of Tyr, artifact, equipment, and whenever it attacks I put a 1/1 counter on it and tap up to 1 target creature defending player controls. So that's a great little 1/2. I'm buffing up, I'm tapping, my guys all tap. It's just tapping fun. Couple of instants, Icy Blast. Tap X creatures. If I got a big boy, someone power 4 or greater, they don't untap during their controller's next untap phase. That's a good game finisher there. I can get 2 shots at the one guy. And Bluster Squall. For 1 blue, tap a target creature I don't control. For 4, I can overload it and tap all of them. That's amazing. I've got 3 sorceries. Regner's Sanction. For each player, choose friend or foe. Each friend puts a 1/1 counter on each creature they control. So I'll be my friend, and for each foe, that'll be them. Choose 1 untapped creature they control, then taps the rest. Hands of Binding. Interesting card. Taps a target creature an opponent controls. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. And it's got Cipher, so I can put it on a creature, go attack someone, tap down someone else's creature, which won't untap for 2 turns, or 2.5, whatever. And good old Bond of Discipline. This one's just a classic. Used it plenty of times in white decks. Tap all creatures my opponents control. Like this one because it gives lifelink. I don't have a lot of life gain in this deck, only the Eliod's Intervention. So that's just a little bit of a bonus there. Now that was the main course. And if you watched my last video, you'll know I love some cheese after the main course. So coming up, There's 4 of the cheesiest cards you have ever seen. I'm starting the cheese board out with something that's just a little bit bland. It's just a nice little cream cheese. Illithid Harvester. So it's got the sorcery. Tap X target creatures. They don't untap during their untap step, which holds them down tapped for the next turn when I can cast it. And when I cast it, I can turn any number of target tap non-token creatures over. Turn them into 2/2 horrors. Do this to their commanders. You do this to all 3 commanders. The 2 weakest commanders, or cheapest in fact, will just bash against each other, knock each other back into the command zone, and the most horrible commander, or the guy with the most board presence, they'll just leave him alone. They'll let his commander just go and attack him for 2. I'm not going to destroy that, not going to give you a chance to get him back on the board. It's a brilliant card. It's a great way just to minimise the impact their cards are having. Next piece of cheese, we're amping this up here. Got a bit of a soft rind, got a bit of a bite to it. Willbreaker. Whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes a target of a spell or ability I control, gain control of it. So I can gain control of their creatures for as long as I have Willbreaker. Chuck some boots or some greaves on that to protect it. Life's all good. Let's move on now. Let's go into something a bit harder. Dismiss into dreams. Oh, check this one out. Each creature my opponents control is an illusion in addition to its other types and has. When this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, sack it. That gets rid of indestructible creatures, just like Willbreaker. You take over indestructible creatures. Get these guys into the battlefield and you can really start to dominate. Now, remember those cards that gave the +1s? Solitary Sanctuary, Hylda, Great Sword of Tears, Citadel Siege, and the 2 cards that gained them whenever creatures got tapped. Gideon's Avenger and Rhoda the Geest Avenger. Slap 6 +1 counters on them, that's all you need. Then cast this next card, Grafted Exoskeleton. Basically, if you can't turn their creatures over, if you can't take control of their creatures, if you can't make them sacrifice their creatures, kill them. It's that easy. That is a great cheese board. Anybody would be happy with that. I've got 4 huge cards in there that work so well with the deck. So that's the end of the video. Hope you're inspired. Hope you learned something. If you did, hit all the buttons. Like, subscribe, they're down there somewhere. Hopefully, I'm not very good with technology. Rhoda and Timin. Fun deck. Keeps you engaged the whole game. Keeps you just talking to the other players, watching what they're doing a bit of politics. But I will say, I would take them out and put Hylda of the Icy Crown in. Keep them in your 99. One can tutor the other out. They're a potent combination. But she works so well, did so much good work. Highly recommend you make yourself a deck with her as your boss. Next time, Torwaki the Younger. Every time I ping someone for damage, I do that much +1. Doesn't sound much, does it? But it builds and it adds. There's cards in there, Mondrak Glory Dominus, the one that doubles the damage. City on Fire, that sort of thing, so I start doubling damage. Plus any time I've cast an instant or sorcery, I deal 2 damage to any target. Get this online with Chandra's Incinerator, and you're dealing damage to people, you're pinging out their creatures. There's nothing they can do. They're just watching an onrush of the train. They're putting out creatures and you're just pinging them back into the Stone Age. It's awesome. So I will see you next time. And in the meantime, just remember, if life gives you lemons, make margaritas.